Hi and welcome to the Tristan Show, and today I'll be talking about the Ancient One from the MCU, and in particular one of my favourite incarnations portrayed by Tilda Swinton, who, after Doctor Strange also appeared in Avengers Endgame and the What If series, and is hopefully set to appear in the upcoming Multiverse of Madness. Now, the Ancient One was the Sorcerer Supreme as well as the leader of the Masters of the Mystic Arts. For centuries, the Ancient One protected Earth from mystical threats and dedicated herself to helping others in need by educating them in the magical arts to give them new hope. However, later on, she was challenged by a former student, Caecilius, who had become corrupted by the Dark Dimension and sought to bring Dormammu to Earth. In the midst of her war against Caecilius and his zealots, the Ancient One encountered Dr. Stephen Strange, and despite her initial reluctance, was persuaded to accept him as her student by Karl Mordo. During one final battle, the Ancient One was fatally wounded, and despite the best efforts of Doctor Strange and Christine Palmer, she accepted her fate and died, but not before giving Doctor Strange the advice he needed to defeat Dormammu, as well as to find his new purpose in life as a master. In 2023, 5 years after Thanos succeeded in eliminating half of the universe's population, the Avengers managed to travel back in time in order to initiate a time heist. After travelling to 2012 during the midst of the Battle of New York, the Ancient One was protecting the New York Sanctum when she was met by Hulk, who demanded she relinquishes possession of the Time Stone. While the Ancient One initially refused, she relented once she discovered that Strange had intentionally given Thanos the stone in an attempt to reverse the snap, giving Hulk the Time Stone. What I like about this moment is the fact that not only does she declare that Strange was meant to be the best of us, but also that she was always aware of him and his destiny, as she says to Bruce, you're about 5 years too early. Stephen Strange is currently performing surgery 20 blocks that way. She does also make a mention of this in Doctor Strange 1, where she tells him when she dies she's seen his future. As for history, and I'll probably revisit the above bit as well, the Ancient One was the latest in a long line of Sorcerer Supremes who had defended Earth from mystical threats for millenniums. According to Karl Mordo, no one knew her exact age, and she never spoke of her own past, though it was still revealed that she was of Celtic descent. Apart from her responsibilities as the mystical defender of Earth, the Ancient One also dedicated to helping others in need, especially those who were paralysed, heartbroken from the loss of loved ones, or suffering from ailments believed to be incurable. Whether by coincidence or by luck or by their own intentions, if they managed to reach Comatage, she would tutor them in the arts of sorcery, which in turn could either cure them of their supposedly incurable ailments, or enable them to find inner peace, as well as to develop a better understanding of the natural laws. Example of such individuals would be Jonathan Pangborn, who was cured of his paralysis through magic, and Karl Mordo, who claimed that the Ancient One gave him the power to defeat his inner demons and to live within the natural law. As I mentioned, the Ancient One had also kept close tabs on famed neurosurgeon Stephen Strange, as she was aware that he would eventually become her successor. According to her comments of him, she believed that he was eventually going to be the best of us. Now, the Ancient One was walking at the training ground of Kamataj, observing the novices who came to this place to seek enlightenment. The Sorcerer Supreme helps them understand and guides them to protect something greater, while keeping them at the side of the light. A group of Chinese bandits is facing Karl Mordo, and the Ancient One then fires a dangerously looking arrow at the Ancient One. Meanwhile, with the inhabitants killed, an old man's house is searched by the Dragon Raiders. They find the arrow they were looking for and put it to the test at a village in Guizhou. There, the bandits approach a group of villagers, and just by holding the arrow, the leader of the bandits is able to blow up a few of the villagers' houses. With this demonstration, the bandits soon demand both payment and allegiance from the villagers themselves. To maintain her own balance, the Ancient One performs ceremonial steps to achieve harmony. By doing so, she is able to get some peace until she is disturbed by Mordo, who has discovered that the bow and arrow of Apollon has fallen into the hands of the Dragon Raiders. These relics could be devastating in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to wield it. Mordo and the Ancient One approach Xiao Ao Zhangxi and try to make him understand his limitation in its practice of the bow. However, Zhao shot the arrow of Apollon directly at the Sorcerer Supreme. But with her knowledge in the arts of the mystics, she is able to block and divert the arrow upwards. Although taken aback that the arrow was blocked, the bandits start to attack, only to find out that they were no match for both a master as well as the sorcerer supreme of the mystic arts. Back at Kamataj, the bow and arrow of Apollon are both safely stored away and guarded under the protection by the Ancient One. During the Chitauri invasion of 2012, in order to protect the Time Stone, the Ancient One defended the New York Sanctum from the invading Chitauri and continued doing so until Iron Man directed a nuclear missile into the wormhole present in the sky, destroying the Chitauri command center and effectively eliminating all Chitauri, thus finally ending the Battle of New York. However, the Ancient One's healing methods were not always effective. Caecilius, one of her most gifted students in the mystic arts, did not manage to recover from his emotional wounds, and later on he discovered the secret of her drawing power from the dark dimension to preserve her immortality. Given how the Ancient One had forbidden others from doing the exact same thing, Caecilius viewed this hypocrisy as an act of ultimate betrayal, and besides losing all faith in her, decided to gather his own group of followers to carry out his own nefarious plans for the entire world. One night, the Ancient One witnessed Caecilius and the Zealots murder the librarian at Kamataj and steal a couple of pages of the Book of Cagliostro. containing a spell that would summon the dark dimension to enhance their mystical powers and bring Dormammu to Earth. The Ancient One revealed herself to the Zealots from the shadows and warned the Zealots that the dark spell would only bring them doom. Not wanting to fight the Ancient One, considering that her powers greatly eclipsed his, Caecilius instead fled with the Zealots to the London Sanctum. The Ancient One pursued the Zealots as they ran down the streets of London as they attempted to escape from her. However, the Ancient One used her manipulated power from the dark dimension to trap the Zealots in the mirror dimension to prevent them from escaping and using their stolen ritual to contact Dormammu. The Zealots turned round in shock, facing the Ancient One, and accepted that they would have to fight the Sorcerer Supreme. As the Ancient One used the Dark Dimension to warp the landscape of various buildings, Caecilius called out her hypocrisy. The Ancient One conjured her Dao mandalas, and used her superior skills to defeat and kill several Zealots. As the Sorcerer Supreme, she managed to overwhelm every single Zealot who challenged her, even beheading a couple of them with her Dao mandalas. Caecilius soon realized that the battle could not be won, as the Ancient One was drawing power from the Dark Dimension. As one Zealot fought the Ancient One, Caecilius used that as an opportunity to escape. After having killed the attacking Zealot, the Ancient One watched helplessly as Caecilius used his sling ring to transport him and the surviving Zealots to another location. With them gone, the Ancient One restored the warped reality before she left the mirror dimension, returning to the real world as several bystanders observed her appearance, and she later returned to Kamar-Taj. One day in 2017, Karl Mordo brought Stephen Strange at Kamar-Taj, as the latter hoped the masters of the mystic arts could mend his damaged hands. As he was offered tea by some mystics, Strange mistaken Hamir for the Sorcerer Supreme until she revealed herself as the Ancient One. After hearing the Ancient One's explanation of how she healed a paralyzed Jonathan Pangborn, he began to question her methods and efficacy. When initially confused about her methods, the Ancient One showed him an ancient book about acupuncture written in Sanskrit. The Ancient One alluded to healing Pangborn in a mystical way, as she claimed that they used his spirit to heal Pangborn's body. Skeptical, Strange began to question the Ancient One's methods and accused her of lying. The Ancient One responded by giving an examination of his personality. Furious at having been lied to, Strange continued to accuse the Ancient One until she pushed his astral form out of his body, thus sending him into the astral dimension. As she returned Strange's astral form to his body, he shockingly asked her if the tea was drugged, which she replied that it was only consisted of a small amount of honey. After she explained what the astral dimension was, the Ancient One taught him a lesson by sending him through the multiverse. As he brought to many As he was brought to many realities, including the quantum realm and the dark dimension, the Ancient One reminded him that Earth was a part of the bigger multiverse and that there were an infinite amount of realities. As he was brought to Kamar-Taj, Strange became fully convinced that her teachings and methods were legitimate and effective. When he asked to be taught into becoming a master of the mystic arts as a test, she said no. The Ancient One, along with Tina Minoru, Sol Rama, and Daniel Drummond, finished a meeting after her first encounter with Doctor Strange. The Ancient One's activity with the Eye of Agamotto was interrupted by the arrival of Karl Mordo. As Ancient One asked Mordo if she was wrong to dismiss their new potential recruit, Mordo identified that Strange was persistent. The Ancient One discerned that Strange was highly ambitious, arrogant, and stubborn, which reminded her of Caecilius. The Ancient One reminded Mordo that she wouldn't want to enlist another disciple into the Masters of the Mystic Arts and lose him to darkness. However, Mordo assured her that Strange was different and convinced her that he would be an important asset in the defeat of the Zealots. Despite the Ancient One's initial refusal, she was reminded that Caecilius' plan still posed a threat to the Masters of the Mystic Arts and even to the world. As a result, she allowed him to stay at Kamar-Taj, and he trained to become a sorcerer. Albeit, as you and I know, she already planned to train him. During one teaching session, the Ancient One showed Stephen Strange and other apprentices how spells work, using a sling ring to create images and shields from thin air made of pure energy. When Strange questioned how he could possibly do things she could do, she responded by questioning how he become a successful surgeon. When Strange explained it had taken years of practice to reach an advanced level, the Ancient One told him it was the exact same concept. When he continued to face difficulty, the Ancient One had Hymir show Strange how to conjure weapons who had no hands, as Stephen feared how could he do these spells because of his hands. Having witnessed his difficulty in using magic, she promptly abandoned him on top of Mount Everest as an encouragement for him to finally work out how to wield his sling ring. Seeing this test, Karl Mordo declared not again, suggesting that she had used this method of encouragement before to a varying success, and considered helping him out in mastering the sling ring. However, the Ancient One confidently assured Mordo that Strange would return to Kamar-Taj within a few minutes. Strange succeeded in returning Kamar-Taj again, only to rapidly progress in magic so much that he found it difficult to work in the conditions offered. Having been informed by Wong that Strange had used the sling ring to steal restricted books from the library, the Ancient One decided to teach him how to cast spells a couple of days later. She showed him the mirror dimension and explained that it remains present and undetected in the real world. When asked about its purpose, she responded that it contains threats, although issued a warning that it had other purposes. Once Doctor Strange managed to stop the Zealots from destroying the New York Sanctum after the London Sanctum was destroyed, the Ancient One and Karl Mordo reunited with Doctor Strange. shortly after the duel on the astral plane, with Strange having killed Lucian Astor and defended the New York Sanctum from the from attack. The Ancient One offered him the title of Master in the wake of Daniel Drum's death, and offered him the Sanctum. Strange told the Ancient One that he preferred title was Doctor Strange, insisting that he became a doctor to save lives, not take them. The Ancient One told Strange that his arrogance and ego was his biggest flaw, and thus reminded him that he still believed in the delusion that he had control over death, which beings, including her, had no control over. Strange then noted aloud that the Ancient One was still seeing through him, before pointing out the fact that Dormammu offered eternal life. Having been accused of believing that death could not be controlled, Strange accused her of drawing power from the dark dimension. The Ancient One was defended by Mordo, who assured Strange that she was not corrupted by Dormammu. Speechless, the Ancient One continued to listen to Strange, warning him to measure his words carefully. Ignoring her, he continued to reveal that he knew that she used spells from the Book of Cagliostro to extend her longevity. The Ancient One continued to listen to Strange's accusations. Strange assured the two of them that he knew how she worked spells, relating back to Caecilius' confession after the battle at the New York Sanctum. Instead of defending her actions, the Ancient One warned the two sorcerers that the Zealots would regroup soon in their effort to finally destroy the New York Sanctum. Before leaving, as the Ancient One let Mordo and Strange fought over the ethics of killing. During the second attack on the New York Sanctum, the Ancient One saved Doctor Strange and Karl Mordo from the Zealots. Mordo stared in shock at the Ancient One after having realized that she did, in fact, summon Dormammu's power to enhance her power, as the traditional symbol of Dormammu appeared on her forehead, making a battlefield out of a subway station. She separated Caecilius and his zealots from Mordo and Strange. Caecilius then reminded the Ancient One of how he had come to Kamar-Taj years ago as a broken man with the desire to overcome his grief. As Caecilius then claimed that he initially trusted her to help him find his way, only for her to lie to him ever since the Ancient One responded with her claim that Dormammu has been feeding Caecilius and his zealots lies with his promise of eternal life in the dark dimension, explaining that living in Dormammu's world would cause them a great deal of pain and suffering. She continued to lecture them before being called a liar. Caecilius, the brunette, and the tall zealot conjured their space shards and proceeded to fight the Ancient One. The Ancient One managed to simultaneously engage both the brunette and the tall zealot and pushed Caecilius back. She then managed to overwhelm and almost behead the tall zealot with her Dao Mandela until Caecilius stabbed her through the tall zealot. The Ancient One was kicked by Caecilius into the earthly plane and fell hundreds of stories below. As Doctor Strange rushed her to Metro General Hospital, where Christine Palmer, and Nicodemus West operated on her, the Ancient One left her physical form and went out onto a balcony. Prompting Strange's astral form to follow, once outside, she confessed to Strange that she had always known the exact moment of her death, and now she had only been able to foresee the possibilities of his future, and she did know what kept him from true greatness, his inability to learn that the world did not revolve solely around him. The Ancient One went to explain that Strange, like Jonathan Pangborn, also had a choice. For his newly acquired magical powers, and could have his hands restored to their former state and regain his old life, or he could serve something greater than himself. The Ancient One confessed that she had always hated using the power from the dark dimension, but she did it to ensure that she was able to protect the world, and that he too would have to bend the rules. Despite agreeing with Strange's assessment that Karl Mordo would fail to understand her perspective, the Ancient One still told him that he needed Mordo's rule-abiding nature, just as Mordo needed his flexibility, for it was only through their cooperation Dormammu could still be stopped. When Strange argued that he was not ready, the Ancient One told him that no one was ever ready, and took his hand in hers with a final piece of advice to him regarding treasuring his time, as well as acknowledging her own fallibility. Despite the centuries she's had lived, she was also not ready for death, and was actually using magic through her astral form to manipulate time, so she could watch the snowfall one last time. The Ancient One released Strange's hand and then vanished from the astral plane, signifying her death. Despite Palmer and West's best efforts to save her, following the Ancient One's death, Doctor Strange requested Karl Mordo's help to stop Caecilius and the Zealots from summoning Dormammu. With the Eye of Agamotto, Strange was able to undo most of the Zealots' destruction and resurrected Wong. But when Caecilius and his followers fought back, Strange had no choice but to confront Dormammu to call off his attack before creating a time loop in which Strange would resurrect many times until Dormammu agreed to leave Earth forever and claim Caecilius and the rest of his zealots as mindless ones. Wong commented that the word of the Ancient One's death will spread through the multiverse, and everyone will learn that the Earth has no Sorcerer Supreme to defend it. Strange decided to continue being a master of the mystic arts and became a protector of the New York Sanctum, just as his mentor proposed him to be. Despite their victory, having grown disillusioned with the Ancient One for breaking her own rules and using powers from the Dark Dimension, Mordo left the Masters of the Mystic Arts and started stealing magic from other sorcerers like Jonathan Pangborn, believing they were unworthy of magic. Or because there was too many wizards, in his words. In the alternate timeline, as I mentioned earlier, in an alternative 2012 during a time heist, and one of my favourite moments in Endgame, Hulk is sent to collect the Time Stone and arrives at the New York Sanctum. he was met by the Ancient One, who informed Hulk that he was 5 years too early and that Stephen Strange was not yet master of the mystic arts, telling him that Strange was still currently a neurosurgeon at the Metro General Hospital, performing surgery as they talked. Which I absolutely love, to be fair, because what I love about the scene is because she knew about Strange all along, and also connects the moments of her death where she admits to Strange that she had seen his futures, his possibilities and stuff. As Hulk approached her, claiming that he needed a time stone which was encased in the eye of Agamotto, the Ancient One proceeded to push Banner out of the Hulk into his astral form so as to immobilize him, leading to the Hulk becoming temporarily incapacitated. Without his guiding mind, as they conversed, Banner implored the Ancient One to give him the Time Stone, notifying her of the snap that Thanos caused in their timeline. The Ancient One refused, citing that she could not give him the Infinity Stone to alter his timeline and leave hers undefended, despite Banner claiming that the Avengers would return the stone to her at the exact moment it was taken. The Ancient One countered his statement, reminding him that he needed to survive in order to return the stones, which Banner agreed to. The Ancient One proclaimed, "I can't risk this reality on a promise, Bruce. It is the duty of the Sorcerer Supreme to protect the Time Stone." Which Bruce then told her what happened, and she was shocked when he asked her why would Strange then willingly relinquish the Time Stone to Thanos. Realizing that Strange would only have given Thanos the stone for a reason, the Ancient One decided to trust her future successor. Which again, this I love, because it shows how much faith she has in Doctor Strange, which is also touching. She reunited Banner and the Hulk into one being once more, and whilst entrusting Banner with the Time Stone, but not without a look of concern in her eyes over the possibility of the Time Stone not being returned after they won. After which when they did win, Captain America returned the Time Stone back to the Ancient One. Now, the thing is, I loved her appearance in Endgame. Tilda Swinton is an uncredited actor, and I hope we see more of her in the future, and I hope they give the Ancient One her own movie, like a prequel movie, or maybe her own prequel series on Disney+. So what was she like? According to Mordo, he described the Ancient One as steadfast but unpredictable, merciless yet kind. This is shown when she was willing to kill multiple zealots in combat and initially refused to help Strange when he first came to Comatage due to his arrogance, though she did so for the sake of protecting the world from the rogue sorcerers and to ensure that other sorcerers did not become like Caecilius and his followers. While she enforced rules on the Masters of the Mystic Arts, again against breaking the laws of nature or using their powers for godlike feats such as manipulating time or becoming immune to death, she was willing to break her own rules to continue to personally ensure that they were followed and that the world was safe, though she never wanted to do so. This led her to draw power from the dark dimension to become immortal, an act which she herself forbade. Since Strange was similar to her in breaking the laws of nature to save the world, she believed that he and Mordo, the latter of which was completely devoted to following her rules would need to balance each other out in order for them to protect the world when she died. Stemming from her flexible moral principles, she allowed Doctor Strange to break several rules when they inhibited his ability to learn, such as allowing him to create gateways to borrow books Wong had denied him access to, and even showed him the mirror dimension to even further hasten his learning and allow him to practice dangerous spells without fear of harming anyone. Whenever she drew power from the dark dimension, especially to increase her power in the mirror dimension, she wore a hood over her head to conceal the mark on her forehead. That signifies her connections to the dark dimension, showing that she was still ashamed of her actions. In her shame, however, she would maintain a proud stance, such as calmly threatening Strange when he revealed that she drew power from the dark dimension in front of Mordo. Despite this pride, she was willing to rise above it to save Mordo and Strange from the zealots in the mirror dimension, revealing her connection to the dark dimension in the process. Even when doing so cost the Ancient One her life, she humbly accepted her death, though she briefly astral projected to watch the snowfall, with Strange to gain more time before her passing. What's also interesting to note is in Endgame, the Ancient One says, "I'm counting on you, Bruce. We all are." We all are? Does this then mean that she knew that he would have to be the one to do the snap that brings all the people back? Interesting. So there you have it, a video on the Ancient One, one of my favourite characters in the MCU. I hope she returns in the Multiverse of Madness, even if it's in an astral form, returning to advise Strange in a situation, or to educate him further, etc. Anyway, if you like this video, hit the like, and if you haven't, then please show your support by subscribing to the channel. Let me know also your thoughts on the Ancient One, and once again, thanks for watching. Take care and see you in the next video. Be well.